So NFL Week 2 is in the books, and I want to do a show weekly, kind of like this, just going over some of the biggest storylines in the NFL, maybe 5 to 10 topics per week, depending on the week. It was a pretty busy week. A lot of crazy stuff happened, a lot of season-ending injuries, unfortunately. So there's a lot to talk about this week. If I find time, I'll try to do this every week, as I said, but hopefully you guys enjoy this video, and let's get into it. So topic number 1 is the Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor thing. So basically, what happened was in the pregame warmups, apparently, Tyrod Taylor had some kind of tightness in his chest. Justin Herbert, the 6th overall pick, I think it was, in this year's draft, was basically told he was starting the game right before kickoff. He goes in there, throws for 300-something yards, puts on a good performance, honestly, even did some stuff with his legs, and went to overtime with the defending champion, Super Bowl champion. So now, after this week, and Tyrod Taylor's injury does not seem to be serious, their coach Anthony Lynn says Tyrod Taylor's still the starter, gives us the best chance to win, all those things. And me, I personally don't get it. I mean, here's a stat that really stood out to me. So Mike Renner of PFF tweeted this one out. So Justin Herbert had over 300 yards, 311 in his first career game. Tyrod Taylor has one 300-plus yard game in his career in 47 starts. I think we know who has the more upside for sure. Maybe Justin Herbert's not ready in their mind, but when Justin Herbert can go basically toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs' offense, and I'll admit the Chiefs didn't have the best game offensively. The Chargers' defense is actually not that bad. But still, to go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs and bring that game to overtime and make it winnable, I still blame the coach, Anthony Lynn, for losing that game. I don't know how you don't go for that 4th-and-1 on your own, 35-yard line in overtime. I know it's a risky call, but when you're facing the Chiefs, you know what's going to happen. And what's his name? Harrison Butker makes the 58-yard field goal or whatever it was. So I don't know how the veterans on the Chargers feel about this one. I personally feel that Herbert gives them the best chance to win. I know Tyrod Taylor is safer, the better game manager. He's good for a team with a good defense like the Chargers, but Justin Herbert showed you that he's not a complete debacle. He's not going to go out there and embarrass himself. He can compete in this league. I don't know how I feel about Herbert overall. I wasn't the biggest fan of him coming into the league, but he definitely proved to us he's probably better than Tyrod Taylor. So I don't know why in a season where the Chargers could be competitive, because as I said, they have a competitive defense, I don't know why you're going to go back to Tyrod Taylor. I feel like you're taking a step back. So to me, it makes no sense. We'll see how it plays out, but in my opinion, I think they should just roll with Herbert for now. Topic number 2, what did Week 2 teach us about the Cleveland Browns? So the Browns are a team that, half the people want to write off, and then another half of the people, not even half, I think there's a lot of Browns haters out there, but I would say 25% of NFL fans think they are a decent team. I don't think anyone's saying they're legit or a Super Bowl team. But the Browns definitely taught us on Thursday night that in a game where they are favored and facing a not-so-good run defense like the Bengals, who had some guys out in that game, Geno Atkins being one of them, they can definitely control the game and make it a very good showing offensively. So, I mean, even Baker Mayfield looked pretty good in that game. There was a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I think, this was kind of that game where Baker Mayfield, you're under the lights, you're in prime time, basically. A lot of people had eyes on him, so he definitely performed well. Now, I admit the interception he had was terrible. Should not have thrown that ball. He did a good job of getting away from the pressure at first, but just making that throw was a bad idea. It was good to see Odell Beckham get involved. Hopefully the stupid trade rumors for him stop. But the Browns, I think as a team, are still an 8 or 9 win team. I'm not ready to give up on them yet. I see too much talent on their roster. I like Kevin Stefanski a lot, and he proved that when his offense is ran the right way and Chubb and Hunt have running lanes, this offense can do a lot of great things. So you have Jarvis Landry, Odell, Austin Hooper's been good so far. I think Njoku's on IR unfortunately, but Baker Mayfield, outside of that one bad throw, looked terrific. Looked more like the Baker Mayfield from his rookie year, even Oklahoma, the Baker Mayfield that I loved. So hopefully he continues to do that and just stops making these bad throws and bad decisions. But you got to be encouraged if you're a Browns fan. I know it's the Bengals. I know they had a pretty beat-up defensive line in that game. But for the Browns themselves, I still think they're a talented roster, and I think they'll be an average team in this league. Do they sneak into the playoffs? Maybe. But I still think they're an 8 or 9 win team. Now, they have to get healthy. They're missing, still a bunch of guys in their secondary. Greedy Williams is out. They have one other guy out, and they also have Grant Delpit out for the year. I forget who else is out for them. I think it is Kevin Johnson. Yeah, Kevin Johnson's out for them. I don't think he's played yet this year. So they need to get their secondary healthy. That's priority number 1. I'm not sure about their linebackers. They kind of scare me as well. I think Mac Wilson might have been out for that game too. But the Browns, talent-wise, are still an average team, and I think they can somehow get to 8 or 9 wins, so I would not put the nail in the coffin yet for that team. Topic number 3, is this the real Josh Allen? I'm talking about the Josh Allen quarterback for the Bills. So Josh Allen, coming into the year, one of my friends told me this stat, and I thought it was crazy, that Josh Allen, before coming into the season, has never had a game of throwing over 300 passing yards. And I thought that was insane. Like, the guy had probably 20-something, maybe even 30 starts under his belt. I think the number is 28 starts under his belt before this year, and never threw over 300 yards. Now, in week 1, he comes out, breaks that. 312 yards against the Jets, going 33 of 46. Then, the week after, against the Miami Dolphins in Miami, goes 24 of 35 for 417 yards. So not only does he surpass the 300 number, now he surpasses 400. Does he go for 500 in week 3? I don't think so. But still, it's very impressive what he's done, honestly. He has 6 touchdowns on the year, no interceptions, a quarterback rating of 122.9, QBR of 85.2, rushing the ball still good, 75 yards, 4.2 a carry, and a rushing touchdown. Look, Josh Allen, honestly, I went back and watched him right before this. You can tell there's improvement, especially from his rookie year. So the thing I like about him more, I mean, of course, adding Stephon Diggs is great for him. I think having a legit wide receiver 1 can do wonders for a quarterback, but especially, adding a guy like Diggs definitely helps him a lot, and it helps a guy like John Brown, because now John Brown gets wide receiver 2 type coverage, and he's not covered by the best cornerback on teams anymore, and Cole Beasley's still there. But the thing I noticed about Josh Allen that really was different to me, a couple things. Pocket presence is a lot better. I mean, he, in week 1, made some really dumb decisions against the Jets. I think he had 2 fumbles in that game that definitely shouldn't have happened. They might have been in the red zone as well, so that was terrible to see. The Bills should have won that game by like 3 touchdowns. They won by 10, I believe it was. 27-17. They should have put up 40 points in that game minimum. But other than that, the way he's lofting the ball and putting touch on his passes is so much better than it was. I mean, Josh Allen has improved just dramatically in that category. I went back and watched his Dolphins performance from week 2. He looked phenomenal there in that category. He lofted some beautiful passes to Diggs. I think one to Cole Beasley, even John Brown. There was one play where he made a bad decision. He basically threw a ball right into double coverage on Diggs. One of the corners undercut it. Diggs made a great play, took the ball away from the corner, so that does not go down as an interception, but it was still a risky throw. But the question is this the real Josh Allen, or did he just happen to face 2 of the worst 5 teams in football the first 2 weeks? So I'm trying to see who the Bills play this week. I'm pretty sure it's the Rams. I'm like almost positive we'll go with that. But we'll definitely find out in the next couple weeks who the real Josh Allen is. But what I'm trying to say is he's definitely improved. This is not just a fluke. This is not like, oh, Josh Allen's going to have 2 great games, then return to what he was the previous 2 years. I mean, this guy's now 24 years old. He's in year 3. You can definitely see a leap happening here. Now, Josh Allen has the upside to be an MVP one day. I don't know if it'll happen this year. There's a lot of crazy, great quarterback performances so far. Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, everybody. Don't think this is the year for Josh Allen, but he's playing really well, and we can't ignore that. So I think the sky is the limit. He's tall. He is strong as hell. There was a play where he literally threw a linebacker into the ground. If you watched that play, I think they called it dead at one point for some reason, but he basically threw 2 linebackers off him. It was amazing for a quarterback. But the deep ball accuracy is getting there. He can throw the ball a mile. I mean, he has everything you could want in a quarterback. So if he puts it all together, definitely scary for the NFL. And I think him and Cam Newton on top of the AFC East will be definitely a fun matchup to watch as the year goes on. But as for the Jets and Dolphins, we don't know. But Josh Allen, right now at least, seems to be the real deal. We'll see if he gets better or regresses. I'm sure he'll regress a little bit from these first 2 weeks, but I think overall he's definitely improving as a quarterback. Next topic, and this is a fun one, is Gardner Minshew the long-term answer for the Jaguars? So coming into the year, basically the talk was tank for Trevor Lawrence, and now it's looking like Gardner Minshew might be the guy. So really, the vibes around the Jaguars were terrible. I mean, Leonard Fournette gets cut before the season. A.J. Boyle gets traded in the offseason. Calais Campbell gets traded in the offseason. Yannick Ngakoue gets traded in the offseason. Jalen Ramsey last year. I mean, they lose a bunch of guys from that 2017 roster. Things were not looking good for them. But then Gardner Minshew comes out last year for the injured Nick Foles and actually put on some good performances. So as we know, last year he came in that Chiefs game, put up some good numbers. And he played on that Thursday night game, I believe. I think it might have been that game against the Tennessee Titans at home here, it says. He threw for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns in front of everybody on national TV. And people were like, okay, this Minshew guy can play. And then he plays last year. He was all right. Had 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, a 91 quarterback rating. So honestly, a good year. 344 rushing yards last year as well. So that's impressive. So Gardner Minshew comes into this year as the starter. And I figured, you know what? They're going to give this guy 16 games. They're going to find out is he the guy or not. And I think a lot of people wanted to write Gardner Minshew off and feel like he wasn't a legitimate candidate to be the franchise quarterback of the Jaguars for the future. But I know he's a 6th-round pick, and it's crazy to think because it's not every day a 6th-round pick or even a late-round pick of a quarterback ends up being a franchise guy. But Gardner Minshew, really impressive. He's this close to being 2-0 this year. They just lost that game against Tennessee yesterday. They go ahead and beat the Colts in week 1, a game where they were basically 8-point underdogs, I think it was. He goes out there, he does his job, goes 19 for 20, 173 yards, 3 touchdowns. In Sunday's game against Tennessee, 30 for 45, 339, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. Now, the 2 interceptions he had, one of them, his receiver screwed him on one of them because it should have been a completion on the curl route, but his receiver in front of him put his hand up, ball got tipped and intercepted. And the other interception he had was batted up at the line, and the defensive lineman came down with it. So they're not like legitimate interceptions. It wasn't like terrible decision making there. So take that with a grain of salt. But honestly, I think Minshew has a legitimate chance to be the long-term guy. Now, the Jaguars, if they go out and win 6 games this year, 5-6 games, and don't have a top 3 pick, there looks like there's going to be some terrible teams this year. The Jets look bad. My Giants look bad. There's definitely some teams in here that look bad in the NFL. So, not sure if they'll be like a top 3 pick type of team. They might be like maybe a 5 to 10 type pick range, which, sometimes you can get a franchise quarterback there, but you might not get the best guy or the best 2 guys available. So if the Jaguars are in that position, why rush it? Gardner Minshew is playing at a high level right now, and I would not count him out as being the guy for them for the future. So honestly, if you go and watch him, he's impressive. He had that great touch pass to Chris Thompson yesterday in the end zone. He made some really impressive throws. He does not make too many bad decisions. He had that play on a 3rd down, it might have been, or even a 4th down. I think I wrote it down. I think it was a 4th down, a 4th and 3 in the first quarter. His pocket presence was great. He basically steps up in the pocket, steps around, and ran around to the left side for a 1st down. It was an awesome play showing his mobility and his pocket presence all in one. So I think Gardner Minshew has a chance to be the guy for this team in the future. It really depends how he finishes the year, what type of draft pick they have, but don't count him out. I think this can be their franchise quarterback for a long time. So next topic we have to talk about is definitely the worst part about this season. It's great that football's back and everything. I love it, but the injuries have been out of control this year. So, we even had some preseason injuries, and I know Von Miller got hurt. There's definitely some others I'm forgetting in there, but this week, specifically, Saquon Barkley goes down with the ACL, Nick Bosa ACL, Malik Hooker Achilles injury, Courtland Sutton ACL, Anthony Barr shoulder injury, and just many more. It seems like this week there were some other injuries this week. Christian McCaffrey ankle injury, he'll be out multiple weeks. It seems like Brandon Sheriff, I was gonna say Redskins, the Washington football team guard, is out for at least a few weeks. Byron Jones got injured, probably won't play Thursday if I had to guess. Jimmy Garoppolo, he had a ankle injury, might miss a game or 2. And Drew Lock had a shoulder injury, and there's definitely many more. So it's just crazy. I don't know how related this is to there being no preseason games and guys now getting hit for the first time. But, with injuries being like ACL, some of them are non-contact. And I don't know exactly how the other ones looked. I don't think I saw the Courtland Sutton one. I don't think I saw the Malik Hooker ones. I don't know how these injuries actually happened, but there has to be some sort of correlation here. So this definitely, puts a little damper on the people that say there should be no preseason at all. I think there has to be some, maybe 2 games of a preseason. I don't think you should just not have it at all. But there's definitely a reason these guys are getting hurt. And I don't know if it's the lack of preparation, the lack of not having live tackling, but whatever it is, it's not gone well for the NFL so far. A lot of tough injuries. The Niners have been a bad team with injuries. The Broncos as well have been terrible with injuries. So, hopefully for those teams, they find a way to just get things going. But it's going to be tough. And I'm sure as the weeks go on, more guys might get hurt. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But in this shortened season, a lot of crazy things are going to happen. But the injuries were definitely, I would say in my I've probably been watching football closely for probably 12 to 15 years. This is probably the worst week of injuries I've seen in my life. So hopefully this is the worst as it gets, but it's definitely been crazy so far. So next topic, we cannot forget about this one, the Atlanta Falcons. I mean, man, oh man, it's got to be tough being a Falcons fan. And my brother's a Falcons fan. Feel bad for the kid. He's not the greatest fan, I'm not going to lie, but he's still a fan, so I do feel bad for him. But man, they still have that stigma from the 28-3 loss. It's still a lot of the same core. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones, to be exact, and still some other guys on that team are still there. I don't know what the Falcons do wrong, and I don't know how they find ways to do this over and over again, but it's unbelievable. So the Falcons had a 98% chance of winning on Sunday, apparently. They were leading the game 39-24 against the Cowboys with 8 minutes left. They had 4 fumbles recovered, and I saw a stat that NFL teams that scored 39 points and had no turnovers in the NFL lifetime were 440-0. The Falcons were the team that made it 440-1. I mean, just to tell you how crazy and how rare that loss was. Unbelievable. Now, I have no idea what happened on that onside kick. I really have no idea. I mean, the ball was trickling from I forget if I think it's the 35-yard line where you're allowed to pick it up. It was trickling from the 25 all the way to the 35. They had 4 Falcons players around the ball. No one jumps on it. I have no idea why. The coaching must be terrible there. I mean, the special teams coordinator has an explanation for that one, I hope. But just terrible job by the Falcons right there. And, a lot of people want to blame Matt Ryan. I can't blame Matt Ryan. He left the game up by 9 points, I think it was. So I can't really blame Matt Ryan for this one. Maybe you can blame him a bit for the Super Bowl one, but not even. So, it's just crazy that this is the team that does this. They lost the game on the biggest stage, blowing the biggest Super Bowl lead in history, and now they're the one team, and 4 years later, that blows a game that 410 or 440 other NFL teams were able to turn into wins. It's just crazy that it happened. For the Cowboys, they're able to avoid 0-2. That's huge. I was high on the Cowboys this year. I think they'll have a good year. Defensively, things might be rough for them. They could not cover Calvin Ridley for their life. It was a good game, fun game to watch. Julio Jones, man, should have caught that touchdown. That definitely haunted them. But I don't know if they scored that drive, so I probably shouldn't say that. But he did have a bad drop in there. I feel for the Falcons fans. Definitely feel for them. Their defense is it's rough. They play the Bears this week. Maybe they get their first win. They probably, I don't know if they'll be favored. They might be favored. I think they're at home, so I'll guess they're favored, but we'll see. Catch us on the Spread Pick show tomorrow for that to see what we predict for that one. But I do feel bad for the Falcons. They're just, I don't know if they're just terribly unlucky or whatever it is. If Dan Quinn doesn't turn it around, it'll probably be his last year. I was surprised he stayed on last year. I figured last year during the bye he might have got fired. They came back. They won 2 games in a row. They looked great on defense. Then things kind of reverted back to their old ways. But things need to turn around for the Falcons and fast if people want to not get fired and keep that same core there. Next topic, is it time to panic about the Minnesota Vikings? So before the year, I made a video of 3 teams, I believe it was, that could regress this season. Now, I had the Seahawks in there. That's looking terrible. I was concerned about their defense and their pass rush, looking terrible. I also had the Packers in there. Aaron Rodgers is probably going to prove me wrong on that one. And then I also had the Vikings in there. Now, the Vikings definitely concerned me because they lost so many pieces. I have it written down. Stephon Diggs, Linval Joseph, Trey Waynes, Xavier Rhodes. I know it was not that good anymore, but still they lost him. Everson Griffin, and then their play caller, Kevin Stefanski, who Kirk Cousins had a lot of success under last year. So Kirk Cousins in last week's game, this past Sunday's game, week 2, I didn't realize how bad it was. They didn't show the Vikings offense too much on red zone, but it was terrible. 11 for 26, 113 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and a quarterback rating of 15. I have never seen a quarterback rating that low. That is awful. So in week 1, they put up a lot of points. They lost 43-34. You can blame their secondary on that one. Rodgers had a field day there. Then week 2 at Indianapolis, they were coming off a tough loss. I liked the Vikings a lot in that game. I thought Vikings +3 would be just an easy win for them, honestly. But they lose that game 28-11, and honestly looked worse than the score tells you. I think Dalvin Cook had a garbage time touchdown in there, so good for you fantasy owners. But they played an ugly game in that one. So personally, I'm a little concerned about the Vikings. They've never had the most dominant offensive line. Their only weapon really is, Dalvin Cook's still a weapon, but Adam Thielen, who's been doing pretty well so far. Their defense, I mean, their secondary looks rough for sure. They lose Anthony Barr, so like I know they still have. I don't know if Danielle Hunter's played yet. I think he was hurt. Ngakoue looked better last week, but overall, this team has a lot of question marks. I'm not sure what's going to happen with them, but if the Vikings continue to not play well, it would not surprise me. The Bears are doing well. The Packers, as I mentioned, are doing well. The Lions are a mess. I mean, I expected better from them, but, I think, honestly, the Lions and Vikings might be on the same level right now. So the Vikings, I mean, they've been a team that's been in the playoffs, I feel like, the last couple years. They had that miracle game 2 playoffs ago. Last year, they beat the Saints as well. I think they beat the Saints twice, it looks like. Yeah, I guess they beat the Saints 2 years in a row. I feel like that's wrong. It might have been 17 and 19. I don't know, but you know what I mean. The Vikings have been in the playoffs now the last few years, so for them to miss this year will be a bit disappointing. I'm not expecting much from them, and if things get ugly there, I personally would not be surprised by it. So lastly, I wanted to talk about the Patriots real quick. I won't dive into it too much, but I want to talk about how legit they are. Now, Cam Newton specifically is the guy we're going to talk about. I mean, I personally thought Cam Newton was going to come back and have a pretty good year, but he's doing even better than I personally thought, and I was like a believer in the guy. So I'm not going to say he looks like the 2015 version of Cam Newton, but he looks like the 2017 version before he got hurt, or the 2018 version before he got hurt. He looks good. I mean, this offense is just built around him. You can tell McDaniels definitely made a lot of changes to their playbook, and they're definitely playing to their personnel. A lot of goal line packages that have Cam Newton running the ball in that would never happen with Tom Brady. Of course, they did quarterback sneaks, but there's a lot of plays where they would put Newton in shotgun formation by himself and then basically just run the ball in at goal line. That's what the game came down to. They were a yard away from beating the Seahawks in Seattle. Would have been a great win. My 10-game parlay survived because of that, so thank you very much, Seahawks. But overall, the Patriots did a good job in that game. I was concerned because I knew Seattle would put up points in that one. The Patriots have a bunch of people that left due to COVID on defense, but I knew the Seahawks would put up a lot of points there, but I didn't know if the Patriots can survive in a boat race, but they did, and they put up 30 points, I believe, in that game, nearly 36. So I was surprised, and I mean, the Patriots, it's going to come down to them and the Bills, obviously, and I think the Patriots have a legit shot for a wild card spot, and I think in my preseason prediction video, I had the Patriots in a wild card spot because they were in the easier division, but I think it's definitely possible. I saw them as a 9-7 team, an 8-8 team, but if they win more games than that, I would not be too surprised. It seems like the Dolphins and the Jets might be kind of pushovers at this point. I don't know about the rest of their schedule, but so far, it looks like the Patriots are in a good spot. Of course, you got to trust their defensive coordinator, their head coach. He's phenomenal. So, I mean, I think the Patriots are in a better spot than most people expected. I'm happy for Cam Newton. I think a lot of people were writing him off when they shouldn't have. I definitely was not one of those people, but even he's playing beyond my expectations, which I find surprising. So shout out to him, and hopefully for the Patriots fans' sake, they put together a nice year, but it's been impressive so far. So we'll talk about them more in the future. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. As I said, I want to try and do this weekly. I hope you guys enjoyed the topics. Hopefully my topics weren't too bad or too boring. You could leave some suggestions for next week maybe if you want. Maybe I'll post in the community page on like Sunday and let you guys put some comments in there for what you want me to talk about. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll talk to you next time.